Hi, and welcome to the Evolving Outlier, you guys, and we're going to have so much fun today. I have a friend who actually, in my mind, is family, because we just family. Christina Elmore is here with us today, and this podcast is kind of dedicated to the people who feel like they're just outside of the in-group, who don't mind the journey of change and transformation, but also don't want to put up with the foolishness of man-made rules and stupidity. That's what we're talking about. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much
to be here.
for being here. I'm so excited to have you here. We have, along with your parents, traveled in a circle around each other for years.
Yes, indeed.
And then one incredibly magical, God-ordained day, the stars aligned.
Yes.
And then we connected, and now it just is. And I'm serious when I say I'm family now.
Oh, it's done. It was already family. It was already family, like, oh yeah, Pastor Wright family. But then it was like, oh yeah, now I know. Now I'm in. Yes, and I love that.
I remember seeing you at Johnny's Swim. Do you remember that?
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Do you remember that?
I love Johnny's Swim.
Me too. And I remember coming in and I was like, oh wait, hey, I know her. Hey, I know
love
them.
that. I love that you guys were
up
there.
against the wall. You and your honey were just up against the wall.
That was before we had kids, I think, too.
Yes, it was.
Right before, when we could just still be up against a wall listening to good
out on
music.
a date, just
yes.
grooving. Yeah.
Oh, not worried about paying a babysitter.
I haven't seen Johnny Swim in eons though now.
I think that might have been the last time I saw them live.
At the Troubadour.
Yeah, at the Troubadour, like 2016 or something like that.
Something like that. It was a long time ago.
But I love them.
So I wanted to have you on for this reason. So many of my guests are just, not so many, all of you guys are phenomenal people who, when people from the outside look at your life, could feel like, oh, she's in. She's in, and she's got it all together, and whatever she touches is gold, and she never feels like she's outside of the in-group. But I happen to know
that's crazy that anyone would think that.
That truth is, most everybody feels like there is an in-group and they're just outside of it. But you still continue to evolve into the best version of yourself. And so I wanted to have you on and just talk about your journey of, one, evolution, and two, those feelings of, I'm not quite in. And what that feels like to you, and what do you do about those feelings? And if you were talking to a young person who was coming up and wanted to do what you do and saw you and go, yeah, she got it, what could you express to them about your journey that would let them know, listen,
oh, I don't got it. I think it's so funny that this is, I think if I dreamed up what a podcast that I would do, we talk about, this is all me all day, is that I've always felt like my whole life that I am very good at being a pretend extrovert who looks like they're comfortable. I can go into a room and do a little chit chat here and a little chit chat there, and it looks like to anyone else that I'm fine and chilling and we're having a nice chat, and in my head I'm doing, what should I say next? Should I ask him about this? I don't know. Do I stink?
Yes.
What did I do? How will I get out of here? What do I leave?
Yep.
And that I've never felt fully comfortable in most spaces, and that for a long time I had sort of not so great ways of dealing with that, or not so great ways of beating myself up about that. And only I think in the last 5, 6, 7 years have I been like, oh no, this is who I am.
Okay.
And it's fine that I don't love social settings, and it's fine that I don't feel like I know how to get into the right groups to do the right things, and I'm not going to be the popular girl. And like, who am I anyway? Who am I outside of that? And do I need that?
Right.
And it sounds like I didn't. It sounds like I'm doing okay without it.
And yet that was such a contradiction of what you said, because then just being you still find yourself in amazing places, in an amazing roles, doing great work.
Yeah, and I feel like that has just been God's grace. And also I think that's the lie that I've told myself, is that I needed to be in the in-group to do that, and that I needed to somehow be cool enough, wanted enough, loved enough, liked enough to be able to do the things that I've always dreamed of doing. And it turns out maybe you didn't. Maybe you can do those things because
you're you.
Because you're you, and because the version of you is the best version of the person to do that job.
Perfect. When have you ever felt like somebody was either not typecasting you so much from a role, but putting you in a box that they had designed, and you knew it wasn't you?
Yeah, I think that I've always been a real people pleaser. Like, I remember growing up in school that I was, pretty smart, got good grades, did the right things, but I did it mostly, too, that I never wanted the teacher to be mad at me. I never wanted them to look cross at me, to raise their voice. If you yelled at me, I would burst into tears. I never got spankings as a kid. Because I was the good one, and you could count on me to be the good one. That way you would always like me.
Got it.
And so I think I've always been like, oh, the box you have for me? Sure, I'll do that. Oh, you want to put me in this box? Sure, I'll just be that. You think I'm, like, in this industry that I'm in, you think that I'm a great person to sort of play the responsible character who has it all together? Sure, I'll be that, even though I'm totally falling apart. I know how to be an actor. I'll do that. And then you think that's who I am in regular life, so you rely on me to do these things? Sure, I'll do them. And it's been a part of sort of that evolution and realizing that I'm not going to please everyone. Everyone's not going to like me. And that is so hard for me still, to be like...
I was going to say, how do you manage that?
I don't yet. I don't well yet, that even I can't handle knowing that someone thinks that I've gone to bed at night, been like, did I say the right thing to that person? And when I didn't, maybe I should write them an email right now. And I'll write emails I never send to try to clear up things that I thought happened in someone else's head How does
that work then with rejection in the industry? Because the whole industry is like 25 out of 26 no's.
Somehow God is so good that I have never, and I don't know why, because I should, that I've never correlated sort of the rejection that comes from these auditions with the rejection of me. And I don't know why. That's just a protection, because I think of it, the job was not mine. If I get fired from a job, I'm boohooing all day long. But the job was never mine yet.
Got it.
And I know that there's 100 of us for every role.
105.
And 120.
Yes.
And so I've never put that together. However, I think the accumulation of that can get to me sometimes. When it's been months, years of, I don't know when the next job is coming. I don't know.
Right.
Then that can get to me. But individual jobs somehow, and this is what I would tell anybody as an actor starting out, it was never your job. You didn't lose the job because it wasn't yours.
Yep.
If you go in thinking this is a great opportunity for me to get to show my stuff, to get to book this room so that the casting director wants to call me back next time. But I just never think of the job as mine until I'm walking onto set.
That's a really good perspective and ability to compartmentalize, because so many people, Cynthia K. McWilliams?
Yeah.
So Cynthia was here. She's also a good friend of mine. And she was saying, the roller coaster of depression for her, the up and down. She said, which outside of industry is part of her DNA too.
Yeah.
But in the industry, she's talked about how, oh my God, that roller coaster of emotion, is tough for her.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy for her to manage it. But what I'm hearing you say is the path that your DNA is on.
Yeah.
Is that the way you see it is it's not yours until it's yours.
Until it's mine. And then once it's mine, now I get to work every day and I'm like, I'll probably get fired today. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this thing today. Now that still persists. But I think that I had to decide that from the start, that if I was sort of attached to every opportunity that seemingly came my way, I would be boo-hooing all night for the rest of my life, because this is the job I've chosen, where we are auditioning and constantly putting ourselves out there and to receive a lot of rejection. However, like I said, that journey, I understand what she's saying, because I do understand when it's been a while and you don't know what's coming and you don't have any agency in it, where it feels like you could create the thing yourself for yourself, it's very scary. I also think I decided early on that my real life was not my job. That my job is this cool thing I like to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But my real life is this marriage, these kids, my family, my parents, my gardening. Like, this is my real life. And then sometimes I'm able to go do this thing I love. Yeah.
That's cool.
And play pretend and do that. And then come back to my real life.
So this is a piece I wanted to talk about, because this bothered me to no end. So your role on Insecure, with Issa's man, supposedly, and the vitriol that people had towards you as if this show was real.
The wildest
and
thing.
Butchering your name, Condoleezza, Condolola, da. And so because I knew you, I was like all offended. I was like, wait, hold up a second. Hold up. Don't be talking about my friend.
I very much appreciate that. But I had never worked on anything that was sort of zeitgeisty like that, where like there was a Twitter conversation about it, which was great. Like and I already loved the show before I was on it, so that was great, a blessing. But I could not have predicted that. I didn't understand. I loved in the beginning people like taking her name and changing. I thought that was cute and funny. And then, but when people started to be mad at her and call her a villain because she was pregnant, I was very perplexed. However, I think most people did it in good fun. There was a few DMs and like things that were, I'm like, I was actively pregnant at the time, and I was like, are you talking about my baby? Right. Or her baby?
Right. Yeah, I just remember having a couple of conversations with people, and I was like, you need a life.
You need a life.
Because if you are so wrapped up in this that you actually have vitriol towards a person who's playing a character in life on a TV show, you need a life.
I love when people didn't like the character, but I am not her. I don't know her. I don't have her number. She doesn't exist. Like, we can't run up on her.
Exactly. Tell me what's been your favorite role that you've played without whatever's ahead of us.
Okay. I think that because we're on a strike, I'm not going to talk about things that are ahead of us. Mm-hmm. But that is a role I really liked. So one day. But in the past, I think my favorite role, maybe it was Condola. I think maybe not. I liked being in that environment, I think Condola was great, loved playing her, but I think I loved being on a show that was made and created by these sort of incredible Black women who looked like me, who had my experience, and that it was a show that affected so many people and that people would be so interested in to talk about on Twitter. And it was a show that I felt like was a love letter to like my generation of Black women in Los Angeles. And I was like, that's me.
Yep.
So I love that it existed, and I love that I got to be a small part of it. Whether that was my favorite role, I don't know. But it was my favorite job.
Space.
Yeah,
favorite space work-wise. What, when we talk about evolving, because all of us are evolving, and the backdrop for this was, I was speaking to a friend who was in from New York, and we were just catching up, and she was like, so tell me what's going on with you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm in transition. I said, but I always feel like I'm in transition. Yeah. And so the more we talked, I then said, I'm in transition, but I never feel like I fit in completely. I always feel like I'm just outside of whatever it's supposed to be. So, I grew up as a tomboy, played sports, but all the pretty girls on my block, you know what I mean? We're the pretty girls.
Yeah.
And I didn't do makeup, nails, or anything until I started being on stage. And then I went to a really, really rich school with a bunch of rich kids. But my father made money in the most illegal kind of way, which is why I could go to the rich school.
Yes, you're like, we could afford
but when people talked about what their parents did, I had to say stuff like, he was a pharmaceutical transporter, or stuff.
Business, it's entrepreneurial.
Yes. So
spirit.
I couldn't, I couldn't do that. So then, then I go into college, and I was always different. And then corporate America, worked for Disney for 20 years, only Black woman in finance in Tokyo, building these theme parks all around. Just didn't quite fit in, but I always felt like I was evolving into a version of myself that I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
In spite of not feeling like I fit in. And I literally just casually said, I feel like I'm this evolving outlier. And my friend was like, ooh, that's good. And I said, I bet other people feel that way. She goes, I bet they do too. I feel that way.
Yeah.
And I said, I should do a podcast. You know what I mean?
Here we
are. And so talk to me about the evolution of who you are in your journey towards the best version of yourself. What does that look like for you? What has that felt like for you?
Yeah.
And what are some of the pitfalls that you've fallen in along the way?
Let's see. So like I was saying, I'm a person who's like not, I was going to say recovering people pleaser, but it's active. I'm still, somebody help. And so I think that I have constantly tried to figure out what's not the best version of me, but what's the version everyone will like, And that's
a lot of work.
It's so much work.
It's like playing Twister.
It's trying to twist yourself into somebody else's version, and then you don't even know the person you're pretending to be.
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day, like I would come home and not know what I actually felt about things, what I actually was experiencing. And it was a sort of a war inside of me, especially, so I grew up here in LA, and then we moved to San Diego and Sacramento for high school. And then as an adult, I came back after college and grad school to sort of start doing this work.
Put a pin right there. Did I read somewhere you went to Harvard?
for
get out of
here. Yeah. So that was a weird place of trying to fit myself into all kinds of different molds. I was living at Harvard. I was living all kind of lives. I was trying to be the girl, you know, the hype black girl in BSA, and then I was also trying to be the thespian girl in the Harvard Dramatic Club with all of the white kids who were not putting me in roles, and then also trying to be the girl at the Bible study, but still trying to be at the party tonight. So we gonna have to wrap this up. So and like. Because I want you to know that I'm a strong Christian, but then I also want you to know that I'm gonna have a lot of fun, and I want you to know that. And all of those things are true, except that I'm never bringing my full self to any of the venues. So I'm like coming to the theater and being this girl, but I'm not bringing any of the girl who I was at the BSA meeting, and I'm certainly not bringing the girl who I was in church last night. And so, do any of y'all actually know all of me? And the answer is absolutely not. And so even now, when I connect with college friends who weren't necessarily my closest, I have to recall, who was I?
Who was I with you?
I was with a college friend a few weeks ago, and we hadn't connected in a long, long time, and we were talking about our sort of post-college life, and when we were friends early on, but then I couldn't recall how we hung out in school, and I was like, where did we used to? She was like, remember? And I was like, oh yeah, what version of myself was I giving you then? And do I seem crazy different now? And she was like, you do seem settled. You seem a lot more settled and grounded. And I was like, oh, that's good to hear. Because I was living, so I was trying to figure, I mean, I think everyone in college is trying to figure out who they're going to be as an adult. So I don't think I was weird in that way. But
what were you afraid of, though?
I think I was afraid of, I think what it truly is that I didn't know how to sort of bring all of those versions of myself together. That I spent so much of my life trying to achieve so that others would think well of me that I hadn't yet sort of confronted, like, who am I when I'm not doing that?
Got it.
And do I like the version of me? Because I would always feel uncomfortable in social settings and like, oh, I'm not doing it right. I don't think they like me enough. I don't think they're listening. But do I like me? Am I listening to me?
Do you know where that started?
I don't know. I have a suspicion that my sister is 2.5 years older than me, and then my brother is adopted, and so we're the same age. And so I was a middle child, quasi-middle child. And I think that my sister was a challenging teen child, and my brother also had some challenges, and I just want it to be easy. And so I was like, I'll just be easy. Everyone, if I just do everything right, then I'll be the easy child and you won't have to worry about me. But I mean, I guess.
And my husband's very much like that.
Yeah.
His older brother had just mental challenges and diabetes and sickness and stuff like that. And then his oldest sister, bipolar schizophrenic.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was like, at the time, the way people said it back then, non-politically correct, he was the normal kid to his parents. So nobody hardly paid attention to him so he got good grades. His mom says he went to school with his shirt tucked in, clean white shirt, blue.
He was working so hard.
And then he came back home and he was clean as a whistle, did all of his homework, right? Yeah. But then later he figured out that compliance, right, was problematic for him because I don't always want to be the good guy.
Yeah, sometimes I want to
wild out.
Yeah,
where's Nick Cannon?
Okay. I want to wild out with Nick. Not with all them kids. But
well, that part, no. Not at all.
But yeah, I feel that deeply where I was like, I want to not have to get it right all the time.
Right.
But I'm scared that if I don't, what happens then? But it turns out nothing happens. Nothing happens. No one cares.
Because the infamous they, as you said, don't have an address, a phone number, an IG.
And they're not even thinking about you.
That part.
It's the when I think back on so much of it was self-centeredness.
But you don't feel that way when you're in it.
You feel like you're just trying to please everyone, and it turns out that's all for you. And I think that learning that in having kids is how I've learned that I was like,
that will humble you.
They will humble you so fast. They don't care about you. They care about these snacks.
And
they care about themselves. They before they've been conditioned to let go of that, they make, like I was telling you earlier, my kids have strong boundaries. They know how to ask for what they want because they care about them first.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I want to live like that, but I also was like, I want to get back in touch with my wants, needs, desires that are outside of me trying to please someone else or handle theirs.
Right.
And also, like, what does God think of me? Am I revealing? He knows me, but what am I? Even in my prayer life, I would be like, I'm gonna write these prayers in my journal, and God's gonna be so pleased with me. We'll have our 20 minutes of devotion in the morning, and then at night I'll do some more praying, and then He'll like me. We're good. So I've handled that. Checked that off my daily list. Yes, done my Christian thing. Now I'll go here and I'll do this thing. And I was like, you can't do that to God. How are you gonna compartmentalize?
Because he's looking, going, that's weird. Let's get past that facade. Yeah, let's get past all of that.
Enough of all that.
How did you manage? Because your dad was a pretty popular dude growing up. You just said that your older sister, you know what I mean, was a thing. Your brother. How did you find your way in the midst of such what I will call an extremely relationally successful family? Your mom is also, anybody you talk to, loves your mom.
Yes.
Your dad is the relationship guru, king, years, you know what I mean? All the stuff. How did you navigate being authentically you in your home?
Yeah, I think one thing about my parents, which I'm really, really grateful for, is that while my dad, like you said, was like a popular minister and psychologist and writer, and my mom's a musician and people love her, she's so sweet, is that at home they are very regular. And that my parents, especially my dad too, he is very much like me in that he is very good at seemingly being comfortable in social circumstances. And then I know when he comes home, he is not. Like, he needs
social batteries dead.
It's dead. It's drained. He's like, don't answer the phone. If somebody knocks on the door, I'm not home. He's done. And I was able to see that authentically and be like, oh, that's a way. You can go and do this in the world, and then you can come home and be your full, true, regular self and be done. And that was allowed, which was so nice.
That's good.
And that I think I know a lot of people who are pastors' kids who of a certain generation who didn't feel like they were allowed to slip, didn't feel like they were allowed to do anything. And so what's crazy is that I have this sort of people-pleasing gene, but nobody required it of me. They weren't like, you need to be, that was me.
That was all you.
That was me trying to I am a conflict-averse person. That was me trying to be like, my sister they're already mad at her, and they're mad at that. Don't nobody need to look at me because I don't want them to be mad at me. I don't want to have a fight.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to say my piece.
And you don't want to have to burden them with another.
With another one,
yeah. With another.
And so that was my own projection of what I thought other people needed.
Got it.
But thankfully my parents have been, and people ask like, oh, was it your parents helped you go to Harvard knowing you were going to be an actor? And they paid for that? No, and they did. They were down. They were down to being like, oh, we know you also want to tickle that part of your brain. And like, maybe you don't know what you're going to do. And so they've been very supportive in helping me be my authentic self, even in the ways when I've rejected it.
Yeah. That's good. Your dad was talking to my daughter, who's going off to dance conservatory, and they are very much alike.
Yes.
From the ADHD part of life to the social battery, like, and goodbye, I'm not here anymore, and done. And so they spent some time together.
That's good.
Just, him trying to help her in a period of time. And I remember him talking to me afterwards, and I got brain mapping done for my daughter with a neuropsychiatrist to determine some of the things that were going on with her. And I told your dad about it. He was real intrigued, right?
Of course he is. He loves stuff like that.
Yes. And so then after we got, this diagnosis of ADHD, he was like, I knew when I met her, we are kindred. We are so kindred. But I remember talking to your dad and your mom about just the raising of kids and how to authentically let them be themselves while pastoring.
Yeah.
Because so many PKs, as we call you all, right, feel this pressure, even if nobody says anything, to be a thing. And I remember having to stand up at my church twice a year and say, hi, my children are my children, and with the nicest of tone, without anything. Lovely. And the people who can speak into their lives know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting in your seat right now and you're wondering,
is that me?
Is that
it's
me?
It's not you.
It's not you.
We'll never have to wonder.
Because the people who are know they are without a question, because they've had a conversation with me. So if you see them with a crop top, or you see them with an earring in their nose,
to you.
If you see their social media, and they say something, I remember at one point Sydney had She was on like this. And basically it was for all the church people, to be honest, like, get off my page. And, if this
like, why are you here?
Yeah. But I remember talking to your dad and your mom and saying, how did you guys do it? Because your daughters are so well adjusted. And they were like, we tried our best to let them be.
Yeah. And they did get a good job. Thankfully, also, I grew up without that stuff. Like, I grew up without social media. But, like, the other people trying to parent pastor you thing, the whole village idea is so sweet. I love a village. But they think that they're doing you a favor. They think they're doing the parent a favor. And nobody's asking. You're making it harder for us when we go home.
Yeah.
And nobody's asking for it.
Because now I don't want to go to church.
Yeah, and I don't want to go to church. I don't want to be with all those people who are always looking at me, judging me, thinking about me, talking to you about me.
Yep.
I'm good. And that was another reason I was like, no one's going to ever think about me. I'm going to do exactly And Corinne, my sister, had a different path where she was like, oh, y'all want to talk more about me? She was the one with the finger up. Yes, let's give them. Yeah, she was like, let me see what else I can wear today. Let me see how much less I can wear. I feel grateful for the people who, like you said, who knew they could pour into my life. Yes. The people who were there and who took me places and said, oh, you need some time away from home. Let's go. I'm going to, as an adult, shine my light on you. I think that's something so many people who don't have kids, especially if you don't have kids and you have time and space and light to share with somebody else's kids so that they can be away from the adults they're used to and feel loved and wanted and appreciated by other adults. That was when my heart would, when my mom's friends would be like, oh, I'm going to take you out. I loved to be with adults. I just didn't care about these kids. I was like, let's talk. Let's do nails. I've always wanted to be an adult.
You sound like my kids. They always kind of ramped up.
Yeah.
Because the people of their own age was problematic until they got like 18 or so.
Yeah, when everyone kind of
then it kind of levels out just a little bit. But early on, they were like, yeah, no, thank you. I'd rather be with adults. And or college kids, because we had college kids all the time. So it's, what is this, 2023? It is 2030.
Ooh, okay.
7 years from now.
Okay.
What have you evolved into?
Ooh, I hope that I have evolved into someone who's no longer waiting on yeses to do the scary thing. I have, for a lot of years, had like things that I have felt compelled to do, like I really had burning passion to do, that I've let fear or stop me. And I've cloaked it in like, oh, I'm not going to write that script because the kids, I've got these little kids and I don't really have a lot of time to do that. And I'm just going to wait on these acting jobs, but I won't write the thing, or I won't go and direct the short because what if I'm really bad at it? And so I just won't do that. And I'm no longer going to let fear of failing be a reason to not do it, because I'm going to fail, and great.
Does that have to be 7 years from now?
No, it doesn't.
Or can that be right now?
It can be right now, Pastor Dre. It can be right now.
It can be right now.
It can be right now. It can be right now. And the excuses are dwindling, I think, too, especially in this moment of, like, a strike and, like, craziness in my industry. And my parents now live with me. I have the childcare. The excuses are dwindling. So it could be right now. And so I'm hoping 7 years, though, I look back at all these things I did do that I was scared to do, and I did them.
And you have the scripts that you wrote.
Yeah, so I just need to do it.
And you produced, and you directed,
and
all
they're
the
there.
Things, and
then we're on the podcast talking about like, oh, look.
Yeah, that's good. Your kids, what's your heartbeat for them? These two incredibly handsome, boundary-ridden little boys who have their own temperament and their own constitution of what life is like for them at this age. Yeah. What's your hope and your dream for them in this world? Because this world is crazy.
Yeah.
What do you project for them? What would you want for them? And what's your, and it don't have to be all laid out. What's your plan to keep them healthy?
Yeah. I hope and pray that I've always talked about how, like, I want my kids to be the weirdos. Like, I'm down with them being the strange nerds who are so obsessed with whatever they love, that they're so deeply into it that they don't care about who says they can do it, want to do, that they find their community of other weirdos who are doing the thing that they love to do, so that they feel like they can pursue the thing they love and also still not have to sacrifice having friendship, community, life around it. So I hope that they find some wild passion and that they have 75 friends who also love to do it with them.
That's good.
I also hope that they learn that in their sort of antisocial spirit now, that they open up their hearts to others who love them and who want to love them no matter what.
Yeah.
So I pray that for them, that they have the best kind of friendships and the best kind of influences in their lives.
That's good.
And then I pray, too, that just God covers them as two black boys in the world, like that they are protected in every way, that they know how to respond to authority, and that they also know how to stand up for themselves.
That's good. One last piece, interracial marriage.
Yeah, I am in an interracial marriage.
How's that been?
You know, it's
in this world.
It has been different. Before I met Ryan, I had never dated interracially. I'd only dated black men. Mm-hmm. And so I never expected to marry a white man. Like, you couldn't have told me that I was going to marry a white man. Like, no, I'm not.
He the coolest white man,
He's a cool guy.
He the coolest white man.
And I appreciate that he is just himself. He's not trying to be nothing but that. But, you know, different years have been different things. I feel like we got married in 2014, and in that year, it was like, oh, y'all are together? Okay, that's cute. That's interesting. And then there were some years where it was like, every black woman I know was marrying a white man. Mm-hmm. And then there were the other years where it was like, I felt like, oh, this doesn't count as the black love thing that I always thought I would have. Mm. And I love this here, but do I have to mourn that? Is that weird? What does that mean? Especially in sort of a post-2020 era when people had different ideas about what interracial marriage looks like. And
the Black Lives Matter movement and all the things. Yeah.
And that people then questioned my support of that. And I was like, oh, never get it twisted.
Say don't come for it.
This black woman right here with these black children and this wonderful white man who happens to be my husband. So it's been sort of a journey. It's been a real evolution of, I guess not of my feelings about him, that's my man, but of the world's feelings and how I sort of interact with their thoughts and opinions and take them in. But ultimately, I forget he's white because he's my Ryan, he's my family.
Yes,
that I'll be like, oh yeah, you don't know that. We'll be talking about something and I'll be like, oh, that was not your experience. Or we'll go to a church and the music will be incredibly loud. And yeah, I'm like, oh, my ears kind of hurt, but you know, I'm used to this. And he'll be like, I just have to step outside into the lobby. I'm like, oh yeah, because we had different cultural experiences. But ultimately, that's just my boo, and I'm gonna stick beside him.
I got you. And I asked the question because you talk about morphing into and dealing with being different for different scenarios, and I wondered how that impacted you in terms of how you saw yourself or responded to people's perspective.
I'm really grateful that, because I would have assumed, I think, before I met Ryan, before I was married, that like dating a white man, could I be my full self? Do you know what I mean? Like, how could I go get my bonnet at night? And like, you know what I mean? Like, am I going to be able to, are you going to understand when I put these tracks in and take them out and then have break? And I had all these sort of preconceived notions about like, will I be able to be my full black self in a home with a white person? And I think because I picked him right, and like, because he was the man meant for me, that I have been my full self at home.
Okay.
And that then in the world, I think there were times where, you know, I've been walking down the street with him and a brother will be like, he can't do for you what I can, you know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah. And I've had to learn that. But I also think that in the world, that when people meet Ryan, they're immediately disarmed by him, that he's not and he is fully himself in a way that you can't help but be yourself around. And so thankfully, the people who are up close with me and live life with me, that hasn't been a thing. But then the internet and the world, I'm learning as I evolve that I don't really care.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What is and this is last question, or last thought, what is the version of you that you think you are morphing and evolving into that pleases not everybody else but you?
Yeah. I think I'm becoming a person who is so in love with my regular self and my regular life, and that I'm trying to no longer have to sort of justify that or glamorize that or make it better than it looks or sounds or seems, and that like when I'm working, I'm blessed. That's amazing how grateful I am. And when I have periods of valleys, it doesn't mean anything about my talent or my or my trajectory or my do I still have the momentum. And then I think for a while, especially in this industry, that I sort of connected, not for every audition like we talked about, but I connected my self-worth to like my rise. Like, is this job better than the last job? And does that mean that the next job's coming? But I'm falling so much more deeply in love with like, oh, this regular life I have is so good that this, like, I have parents who chose to give up living in beautiful South Africa to come and help me with my children. I have a husband who is the best father in the world, hands down, period. There's nobody else who can compare. I have kids who are wild and crazy and free.
Yeah.
I like to like garden. I have like fresh tomatoes from my garden. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I like my regular self, and I'm no longer trying to hype it up in a way that seems pleasing to the world. Like that. I'm not glamorizing my life, and that it's fine. I live in my little house in Inglewood, and I love it, and it's great.
And it's good.
And it's good, and it's good. And like, good. And that's enough.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for sharing your life and your story.
Thank you for having me.
I've been impressed from a distance, and then impressed from just watching all the stuff that you're doing. And then your parents love you like crazy. They love all of you guys like crazy, and we share stories. I don't know why they were much older than me in my mind for a long time, and then I realized no, they're not. I just had kids much later.
Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah, because we're so old.
Yes. So in my mind, you know what I mean? There was,
and
then we got close, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, they're only a few years older than me. We're actually technically the same age, you know what I mean, in grown-up life. But the way that they speak about you guys and how proud they are of you and what you're doing and how you show up in the world has just blessed me. And then getting to know you guys, I'm like, oh, they're right.
Oh, that's
They're absolutely right, because you guys are beautiful people, inside
you.
and out. And so thank you for taking time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for loving on our family so well.
And I do. I do. I'm praying that the strike is over soon.
Thank you. Me too.
So whatever your next project is, I just want you to Google her.
Yeah, it'll come up.
And it'll come up. We can't talk about it today, but Google her. And then when everything hits the fan and all the rest of the stuff is over, please, please, please support, watch, and share.
Yes,
right?
please.
Watch and share, because she does great work. Absolutely great work. So much so, that's why some of y'all were tripping and mad, because you thought it was legit and not a TV show. I honor you. I bless you.
Thank you.
I'm so
Likewise.
grateful for
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm sure people are going to have a blast just knowing a little bit more about you.
Thank you.
This is The Evolving Outlier with Miss Christina Elmore. Thanks for tuning in. We will see y'all next time. Peace.